Hello. Hi. All right, it's the first day of the stitch along. It's absolutely roasting here. Like, I'm pretty sure we're dying. It's so hot. Hi, George. Oh, it's so warm here. So I don't know if it's warm where you guys are, but it's really warm where I am. Also, my left ear is blocked still. So please tell me if I'm shouting or if I'm not speaking loud enough, because that could be the case. Okay, so today we're going to get started. The first thing I'm going to show is how to thread a needle and how to do a knot, because I know that a lot of people, it's their very first time. Just going to close that. It's their very first time and they probably are thinking, I do not know how to start this. Like, how do you thread your needle, or how do you do a knot, or like, it sounds really easy, but a lot of people have trouble. So I'm just going to go over that really quickly. And also, if you already know how to do threading a needle and hello, and making a knot, then that's great. I'm going to tell you what we're going to do. So for the bathtub, we're going to get started with that. We're going to do a nice outline. And I'm going to use 3 strands, and I'm using a really dark gray thread, not quite black, but a nice dark gray. And we're going to do a whipped backstitch. We're going to learn the backstitch and the whipped backstitch today. So if you want to just go ahead and get started, then go ahead and do that. But if you're new and you're like, I need a little bit more help, then I'm here for you for that as well. What stand are you using? So this is a lap stand. I've got my lovely brick here. So if you've been with me for a while, this is the brick that I use. And this right here you are supposed to sit on. So you put this underneath your leg or your thigh. And then this part right here just goes over the top and it goes up and down. And you can swivel it side to side as well. So you can buy them at Cloudcraft or Hawthorne Handmade. There's some other ones on Amazon as well. So it just depends on what you like. So, all right, let's get started here. So the first thing that you're going to do is take a length of thread. Now, if you want to do the no knot method, meaning that there's no knots on the back, you can only do that with even numbers. And that's because you're going to take a longer thread than you need to, and you're going to fold it in half. Okay. So if I say you need 3 strands, this method isn't going to work because you can't fold 1.5 strands in half and make 3. Do you get me? So that method isn't going to work. I will definitely show that when we have a even number that we need, because it's really, really nice to know. But for this one, we're going to use the method where you knot the end and you leave a tail in your, at the end of your needle here. So we'll have our needle here at the top where it folds over, a little tail where there's an end, and at the very, very end, you're going to have a knot. So a lot of people say how long to make your thread. And, again, a lot of people say that you should put it in your hand here and put it down to your elbow. And that's way too short for me. So I tried to do about double that. So if I have it like that, like where my elbow is, and do double and then like a little bit more, because I just can't. I can't do it so short. I quite like longer threads. Now, when you have longer threads, they'll knot a little bit easier, meaning that when you're pulling them through your fabric, they're more easier to get into a knot. So keep that in mind as well. Sometimes it's nice to have a nice short, manageable amount of thread. No amount is too long or too short. So if you feel like, oh my gosh, Tori, no, that's way too short for me, I can't, then make it longer. And if you find the longer one is too long, then make it shorter. Like, you do what works for you. So if I'm showing you something and you think, nope, I don't do it that way, just do it the way that you do it, because that's totally fine. Especially if you know it works. You know, people do things differently, and that's like the best part of this. So what you're going to do, there's 2 ways to separate your thread. And the first way is you're just going to pull your threads apart a little bit. And I use the 6-stranded mulling thread. Normally I use the anchor threads, but I also have some DMC threads as well. There's not a really big difference, but they have the 6 strands in them. If you pull them apart and they don't have 6 strands and they look a little bit more twisty, then you have pearl cotton and it looks different and it's not separatable. So I had someone at a different stitch along say, I don't know what you're talking about with this separating. It doesn't work. And if you can see really closely here, do you see how it's almost like got little like beads in it almost? That's kind of what it looks like. It's like quite textured. These here, they come in thicknesses instead of in strands. So this right here is all 6 strands is 1 thickness. 1 strand is also a thickness. 3 strands is also a thickness. So the more strands you have, the thicker you're going to make a line, and the less strands you have, the thinner you're going to make a line. But if you use this pearl cotton like this, it's the pearl cotton, Anchor and DMC have it. This comes in thicknesses by the number, I believe. So this one is 5. And then you can get thinner ones and thicker ones. So it's always nice to check that you've got the right one before you even start. So the first way is you're going to pull them apart like this, and you're going to take 1 strand out. Okay? Hold the rest of them like this and pull this 1 strand. You're just going to pull that 1 strand out. Now remember, we said we want 3 strands. So if you do it this way, you're going to have to do this 3 times. Which sounds like, yeah, no crap, Tori. But some people, they are like, how do you get 3? No question is a stupid question, okay? I just like to go over all of the basics. So again, if you want 3 strands, you're going to pull 3 out, yeah? The other method, hi, Veronica, is to pull them apart like I just showed you. And instead of separating 1, you're going to separate 3. So now I've got 3 in this hand and 2 in this hand. And I call it the Y method because it looks like a Y. I'm sure there's a different way, or like a more, right scientific word for it or whatever, But this is what I do. So I kind of use the rest of my fingers to kind of keep it straight and untwist it a little bit. And my thumb, and I'm just holding them like this. Melanie says, hi, Veronica. Hi, gang. Thrilled to hear you again, Tori. Oh, goodness. I'm sure, I'm just waiting for someone to be like, no, you are annoying. Because I feel like I am annoying all of the time. Honestly, sometimes I'm just like, why are you talking about that? Nobody cares. Nobody wants to hear that. Okay, so there is the way to separate your strands, separate your threads. Okay, so now we've got our 3 strands, and what we're going to do is thread our needle. Now, my needle is actually in the other room, so I'm going to use this other one. So we're going to use 3, so I can use the 3-strand one. So what you're going to do is take your strands, your thread, in your fingers, and you're going to do this with it. So find the end here, okay, and put it right at the tip of your fingers, just like that. And you're going to do this with that, okay? Now close your fingers so you can just not see it anymore, but you know where the end is, and you're going to put your needle, the eye of the needle, which is the hole, right over the end, and then do that same motion that I just showed you, and that's going to push your strands through the eye of the needle. I've got to beauty blogger it, okay? I've got to put my hand like that. And then you can pull it out, just like that. So I'm going to show it one more time. Now, if you're stitching and stitching and stitching, and what happens is sometimes you'll have one strand that gets a little bit longer than the other, or you'll get these little hairs at the very, very end, and it'll make it really difficult for you to re-thread your needle. And a lot of people are like, what do? Do you just lick it or whatever? I don't like to lick it because it gets my own saliva in my projects, and I might sell this. I might give it to a charity for an auction, or I might, give it to a friend, and then all of my spit is going to be on the back of that. So I don't like doing that. So what I do is I just snip off the end. You just take your scissors and you just snip those extra little hairs off. And they'll be nice and straight right across the top. So I'm just going to show you again. You're just going to do this kind of motion. The other thing that your spit or saliva does is it can actually tarnish your needle. So if you're like me and you like to use the one needle all the time, like, do you remember ages ago when I lost my favorite needle on the float boat? Let's just take a moment for that, because that was just tragic. Yeah. So I keep the same needle all the time. Other people, they change their needles all the time for every project, or however, or if they feel like it gets a bit tarnished, then they'll change it. But mine don't tarnish because I don't spit. I don't use spit. I just do the little finger thing, and it takes care of that. Okay, so we've threaded our needle. We've got a little tail here. Remember, I use a long thread, so I've got a long tail for mine. If you have a shorter thread, you might have a shorter tail. That's totally fine as well. Okay, so the first way to thread your needle is the quilter's knot. So you're going to take your needle in one hand and your thread in the other. You're going to put this right here, right on top, and your thumb on top. So it looks like that. You're going to wrap your thread around. So 1, 2, and hold all of those threads together. I'll show it again, so don't worry if you're like, that's too quick. And you're just going to pull this right here through what we've just made. And what happens is you get a knot. See? So let me just snip that off, and I'll do it again so you can see it. So many times people are like, oh my God, that's amazing. It's not that amazing, but it's quick. So you're just going to take your thread in this hand, your needle underneath. You're going to put your thumb on it like that and just twist it around. You can do it one time. Obviously, the more times that you wrap it around your needle, the bigger that your knot is going to be. So say you've got just one little strand. You might want to do it like 3 or 4 times just to like really get a nice big knot there. But if you just do it one time, that's fine too. So I'm going to do mine too. Hold all of those threads. When you wrap it, don't wrap it too tight either, because remember, the needle has to go through. We're going to pull it through. So you don't want it to be so tight that you can't pull your needle through. And then there you go. See? You've got your knot on the end. Okay? The other way, I like to be thorough. Snip that off. Okay, the other way is you're going to make a loop and then put the tail inside the loop. I always feel really silly showing this, but I'm telling you, some people, they've never done it. They've never done it before. And then you just kind of shimmy that down to the end. So I'm just holding the very, very end, and I'm just going to shimmy that all the way down so that it's kind of down towards the end. So obviously, if you want 2 knots, you just do it again, but you have to put that knot right on top of the other knot. See? So easy peasy. Okay, so we've got 3 strands. We've got our needle, we've got our knot. Now all we have to do is do some stitching. So what we're going to do today is a back stitch, and then we're going to whip it. And so what's going to happen is we're going to make all of our stitches, and they're all going to be in a row and in a line like this, all about the same length. So we're really trying to focus on making our stitches the same length. So whatever stitch you do your first stitch, you're going to have to commit to that for the entirety of your bathtub. So we're going to outline the bathtub. And then after that, yes, Mal, we're going to whip it good. And I always get that song in my head. You know the one, I'm not going to sing it. And all we're going to do is go back and slide our needle underneath each stitch so that instead of having 2 stitches like this, you're going to have another piece that covers where those 2 stitches connect. So I'm just going to start right here because it's a nice little corner. and do it all the way around here and then back. And then you can always see. Great to be here. I have a question. I don't know if you already talked about this, but are we going to embroider the bathtub inside or only outline it? Okay, so as I'm stitching, I'm going to show you the back stitch, and then I'm going to discuss about what to do with the bathtub, because you have a couple options here. And I've done this in a way that if you are just starting out and you're like, this is overwhelming, then you can do A. Or if you're like, I feel a little bit like that's too easy, maybe I can do a little bit more, you can do B. And then there's even a C and a D. So there's lots of options here for you. Let me just switch my needle, because like I said, I like to use the same ones. I don't know what it is, but I've got certain ones that I use, and I just like those. Okay, so we're gonna come up from the back like this. Let me zoom in. Ooh, it smells nap time. Have a good sleep. Okay, so like I said, what you want to do is keep your stitch length the same. And some things to consider here are that if you have a curve, if you have really big long stitches and you go around your curve, then they're going to be very squared off at the corners. So you want to make your stitches a little bit smaller in that area. That doesn't always mean that you have to do all of them that small, but just something to consider. So for example, around the bottom here, like the feet of the tub, or like around the corner of this right here, if you don't want it to be very sharp, if you want it to be a little bit curved, or down here at the bottom curve of your bathtub, you might want to make those a little bit shorter in those areas. If you're using a dark thread, then it doesn't really matter. All the dark colored threads, they all kind of blend together really well. If you're using a light color thread, you want to really pay attention, because you can see every single stitch with light colored thread. So what I'm doing, I hate it when people ask me what color. I'm using a dark gray. And that's because past me didn't know that future me would be teaching embroidery like this. And I wound all of my thread onto bobbins, and I didn't label any of them because I thought I don't really need to, because it's just for me. And now it's come back to bite me in the bum every single time that I do a stitch along and someone says, what color are you using? And I'm like, SHIT, I don't know. Okay, so I'm going to go for about that length. So all you're going to do is you're going to come up from the back like I did and go down. That's your first stitch, just an easy peasy straight stitch. And then you're going to come up a ways away. We're trying to get the length of these stitches the same. Okay, up. And then back down through this same hole. So what you want to do is make sure that it's the same hole. So you have two threads that are going down through the same hole. If not, you're going to have two stitches like this. They're not going to meet and make a line. You're going to have them a ways away, and that's not what we want. Okay, so we have two stitches. Now we're going to do the exact same thing again. You're going to go up a little bit farther. Again, trying to make these nice, same length, okay? And then this one right here, back down the same hole. Hello. Hello. And then you continue that through the entire thing. Now there's a couple tips. One of them, there's a thread saver method of the back stitch. So I'll show you that as well. I'm just going to do a couple of these and then zoom in so that I love it when you guys know each other and you all say hi to each other in the comments. It makes me smile so much. Honestly, I'm like, oh, look at guys. Look, everyone. Everyone knows each other. Now, a thing to remember is that, like, no one's perfect, okay? So please, please, please don't, stress out about how yours looks different than someone else's, or someone else's looks different than yours, or theirs is so much better or whatever. Like, don't do that. The other thing to not stress about is don't worry about not making these all the same exact length, because remember, we're going to whip it when we're done. So it doesn't actually matter that much if they're not exactly the same, okay? Don't stress. Okay, so there's the back stitch. Let's do the thread saver back stitch. The thread saver back stitch is like this. I've just gone down on this stitch right here. I've gone down through the fabric. Instead of coming up here, I'm going to come up through this same hole right here. Okay. And what's going to happen is, instead of kind of stitching it twice, meaning I'm going farther up and then back down and then farther up again and then back down, I'm going to end up going farther up once and then back down, and then just doing that little jump to the next stitch and then up and forward. So here we go. So here's the farther up one, just like regular, and back down. And then this one, instead of going way up here, you're going to save thread and go up through this one and go forward. And you're going to see in just a minute, when I flip it over, how it looks different on the back. Because it will look different. Okay. Oh, I simply wonder. I'm on vacation in Italy and I'm catching a live. I live in Los Angeles and never see live. Yes. Oh, I love that for you. That's my mom's favorite place ever. We took her to Italy when she came to visit us. Okay, so just really quickly, let me just flip it over and you can see the difference. So here we've got the regular back stitch. It looks like I've got a little knot there. That's fine. And you see how it's like kind of doubled up? And then this here, where I do the thread saver one, I'm actually saving thread by not going over these areas. So it will look a little bit different on the back. Okay, let me do at least the top of this tub here. I said I wouldn't be too late. Making my stitches a little bit smaller to go around the curve. And oftentimes when I'm stitching, I'll do a mix of the two. So I'll do some thread saver, some regular, depending on what benefits me the most, if you know what I mean. Sometimes you're stitching in an area and you really have to think, actually, it's going to be hard to put my needle down there, so I'm just going to go and put it in a different area. And sometimes you trace your own pattern wonky and you're looking at the stitches like, huh, who drew that? Because I'm doing that right now. Okay, as I'm finishing just the top of this bathtub, what I'm going to show you or what I'm going to talk to you about is what you can do with the bathtub. So if you are a first-time stitcher, or if you just think, I just cannot be bothered to, fill in the whole bathtub, or maybe I want it to look a little bit different from the wallpaper and the flooring, or if you just feel lazy like me and you're like, I just don't have time, you can just outline the bathtub. That's it. Okay, there's no shame. No shame in that game, okay? You do what you like the best. The second option would be to fill it in with stitches. So if you wanted to fill it in with stitches, I would probably do a regular satin stitch, or maybe like a split stitch, something that looks a little bit smooth. Split stitch does have texture to it, but sometimes you can do it in a way that shows the movement of the bathtub. So you could do it kind of from top to bottom and kind of go, I don't really want to draw on this. I can draw on this one though. Where is my pen? Paper, pen. David moved all my stuff. Okay, so you could kind of go like this with a split stitch and make it kind of look like this is on an angle like that. Same here. Like that. Or you can just do a regular satin stitch and keep it nice and straight and smooth and lovely. So there's one option. Well, actually there's two options because the first option was leave it blank. The next option would be to tidy up the watercolor paint, because a couple people have messaged and said, I really messed this up. What should I do? And it didn't look very messed up to me, to be fair. Remember, it's watercolor paint. It's watercolor. So with water, you can take it off. So what you can do is wet your brush with just water and go over the areas that spilled over. And you can take a regular paper towel or a napkin, or even just a plain piece of fabric, and you can kind of blot up those areas that kind of overfilled. So there's another thing that you can do if you wanted to just clean it up a bit. You could also do like an applique with fabric or felt if you really wanted to. Just make sure that the size of the bathtubs are the same. So you print out the same size, because if you have a too small bathtub, then it won't work. And then you can stick them on there. I just missed a question. Hold on. In the painting prep video, did you talk about using watercolor versus acrylic paint? I did not, only because I used watercolor for this. You can use acrylic paint. So that would be another one if you wanted to fill in your bathtub with just like a white acrylic paint. Watercolor paint, you mix it with water to make it lighter and darker and to kind of activate the paint. Yeah. Acrylic paint is a completely different thing. It's more permanent, which means that if you do mess up, there we go. If you do mess up, then you can't take water and erase it again. Meaning if I wanted to use, say I liked the color, but I wanted it to be a little bit lighter, I could run this under water and it would lighten the color. It'd probably make my bathtub like a blend of these two colors as well, but I can get a lighter color with it. You can take away color and you can add color with water. With acrylic paint, it's completely different, like chemical makeup. It's like made using different materials and everything. So with acrylic paint, it'll be much more, unless you add water, obviously, but it'll be let's just do this last little stitch. Because there's a knot there. I don't want to go through that. Okay. So it'll be much more opaque, meaning that you can't see through it unless you, like I said, add water. You can add water to acrylic paint, but you won't get the same like erasability that you will with watercolor. Am I making sense? Does it make sense? I hope so. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is whip this, and then that's me done for the evening. That's it. So what you're gonna do here, we're just doing this bathtub, we're just outlining it. Okay, that's it. That's all. Unless you wanted to do the other things, unless you wanted to paint it, or unless you wanted to do an applique or anything like that. A felt applique would be cool. Or you could fill it with stitches if you wanted to fill it with stitches. Completely up to you. But for the oh my God, there's a spider. No. Oh, please don't. God damn it. Just, why you gotta be there like that? Oh, no. Guys. Okay, I did it. Oh my God, I'm sweating so much. That just really freaked me out. I like the felt idea. Yeah, and I know someone said they were going to fill their bathtub with pearls. And I can't remember who that was, but it would look like bubbles, wouldn't it? So how cool would that be? Okay, so I'm just going to zoom in really, really close here so you can see how the stitches are. And then you can see how when I whip it, it will erase the stitches. Okay? Can you tell? So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah? When you whip it, you want to make sure that you have enough thread to do the entirety of the line that's continuous. Okay? So I've done like one loop here. Oh, it's like turned it all yellow. So what you're going to do is you're going to come up where we started. And it doesn't matter if you come from the bottom up this way or the top down this way. You have to keep the same direction each time. Oh, David's back. Keep the same direction each time. Does this like look really bad? There we go. Maybe. So I'm going to go from the bottom to the top. So what you're going to do is slide your needle under each stitch. So there's one stitch. Remember, the bottom to the top each time. So I'm not going through the thread. I'm going under all of the thread. And what that's going to do is just going to cover each of those stitch marks, those stitch holes where we went down into the fabric. There where my knot was. Remember I said I had a knot on the back? I took the knot out and now it's loose, see? My hole? It's like yellow. So you're going to go under every single one. And remember, not through the stitches. You're going to go under each one. Yep, 3 strands to whip it. So this is the other half of the 3 strands that I took out to do the backstitch in the first place. I'm not quite sure why my videos turned really yellow, but hey ho. Okay, so let's zoom in again. And what you see here is you've got your whipped part here, and then the regular part down here. So the whipped backstitch at the top, the regular backstitch on the bottom. Let's see if I can put my iPad on it and lighten that up a bit so you can see a little bit better. So do you see how it's kind of like twisted on the top? Oh, I might actually. Num says, so you have night shift on. I might actually, but I thought it started at, do you know what? It totally does. It starts at 9 and it's 9:04. Oh, I feel like Num always saves me every single time. So hopefully you can see what I'm talking about, how it gets, all the stitches get covered. So this is kind of what I also meant when I said that with darker thread, it doesn't really matter that each of your stitches aren't 100%, because with the dark thread, it just covers it all up. So as we're going around, remember I said that we go the same way all the way around. So I started going from the bottom up. Here it would be still the kind of the bottom out, and we're doing the middle out now. So instead of, I'm just thinking, don't get confused when I said the same way all the way around, because we are doing a circle and it is a bathtub. So it's not just like a straight line where it's like the start from the top or start from the bottom. It's kind of start from the inside of the tub or the outside of the tub. So I started from the inside of the tub and I'm going out. Hope that makes sense. So there we go. What you're going to do is do each of these lines. So you're going to do the lip here. That's going to be one. You're going to do the bottom here. And then here. And then here. And then each of these here. Just an outline. That's it. Remember to use smaller stitches if you're going around a curve, like these bottom parts here. You're going to use small stitches for that, especially these areas here and the bottom of the ball. And that's it. That's all we're going to do. Tiny little one here. Have we got any questions so far? If not, I'm gonna go. So when we're all done, I'm going to go right back down where we started. And actually, you can start to do your little back stitch for these as well. With the same, you don't have to cut a new thread each time. Do you know what I mean? I only did so that I could show you the two different ways, the back stitch and the whipped back stitch. Here we go. We'll come right back up again here. And then whip it again. All right, and then to finish, we're going to do a little knot. So one way to do this is you're going to make a loop, okay, and put your needle up under inside the loop like that. And I like to hold where I want my knot to be. So I want my knot to be down here. So I'm just going to hold that and make it tight. So I'll show it again. Make your loop, put your needle up underneath, okay, hold where you want it to be. And do that. Some people don't like doing knots at all. Some people will weave it in and out. So sometimes you can kind of go like this and do that a couple times. And then you can just snip it off when you're done. It just depends on what you like. Okay? So if there's any questions at all, let me know. This is what we've done today, the backstitch and the whipped backstitch. So you will have done the top of the bathtub here, the bottom part here, and each of these claws. All right. I'll put all of the videos on YouTube. I'll put them up. I've got to charge my phone, but I'll put them up right afterwards. And then you can watch there, or you can watch on Instagram, because I know Instagram has started to for some reason stopped playing some of the videos. So I'm not quite sure why, but I don't like it. So I have to make sure that they go on YouTube as soon as possible, just in case. So there you go. I hope you have a lovely first day. I cannot wait to see your tubs and what you choose to do with them. And yeah, I'll see you tomorrow. All right? Bye.